we empower this farmer to be able to bring that farm agri residue out of the field after the harvest cycle. So once the harvest is done and the produce, it could be rice, it could be wheat, it could be cotton, corn, lentils, chili stalks, corn cob, corn stover, etc. More than 35, 36 varieties of agriculture crops are done. Once the farmer gets a value for the produce, the balance of the plant is of no economic value to the farmer. And what does the farmer do? They burn it in the fields. Now, we keep talking about Delhi going black, and, even now that scenario is there. But just as a statistical data, per square kilometer, the number of farm fires, the highest density in India, state of Punjab. The number two state is Madhya Pradesh. We don't even talk about it. The number three, number four states are Bihar, the high agri and economy states. We don't talk about it. Takeaway from these talks have been defined in the flyers and collaterals which have been shared. What I intend to do is present in terms of the work or the build-up of the work that we do in Prespl, and more importantly, that is a use case for the biomass bioenergy sector, because today this is one of the most promising renewable energy sustainable sectors within India and globally. And I say so because with the biggest takeaway of India's G20 presidency being the formation of the Global Biofuel Alliance. And if we take that as the biggest takeaway, where all the heads of states signed up, and countries, India, US and Brazil, were the three founding partners of the Global Biofuel Alliance. This is going to be one of the most cleaner and sustainable forms of energy that we are using today and will continue to use and grow in the decades to come ahead. Now, if we look at the renewable energy basket, and if you look at the energy basket at large, about 18 to 20% specific to India. And this number is slightly increasing because we are going to catch up with the advanced countries. And we will go to about a 23 to 25% is the electricity market. So in that energy basket, about 23 to 25% will be the electricity market. And all that we continue to do presently under the government's program of renewable energy predominantly has been the 202 gigawatts which is already established, and the target of 500 gigawatt electric that we are moving towards in this electricity segment. So the reason to bring these statistical numbers out is whatever we continue to do, and we will go to that 500 gigawatt electric mark, we will still be in the 25% of the energy or the electricity market. So what happens, or where is the balance 75% of the energy? And that balance 75% of the energy is in cooking, heating, cooling, transportation, which is land, sea and air. The hard to abate sectors like steel, cement or the industrial use is where that balance 75% of that energy basket is. And hence, if we have to decarbonize energy, if we have to move towards our net zero target, if we have to have cleaner forms of energy, the focus rightfully is shifting to that 75% of energy basket. And this is not to take away the decarbonization of the 25% by solar, wind, hydro, nuclear to come, and so on and so forth. So that being the genesis, if we have to address the 75%, what is it that we need to do? And that's where the biomass bioenergy is going to play the most predominant role. So what do? We are a full stack company, and we are one of the only horizontally integrated company in the entire bioenergy basket. And that's because of our strength of actually starting from the bottom of the pyramid, which is the supply chain management or the feedstock for input here. Now, just a parallel analogy, if you look at the oil sector, the largest oil sector company or the public, PSU in India is ONGC. And it specifically works in the upstream segment, where it sources the crude or it brings the crude out. Then you look at the midstream segment, where you have the refining companies and the oil marketing companies bringing the product downstream to the market. So if we use the same parallel with the biomass bioenergy sector, then the biomass supply chain management on the upstream side is going to become the mainstay of this particular segment of industrialization that we are going to see. Then comes the midstream segment of technology, where how do you convert it to various forms of energy, which is how we are seeing the advancements happening. And then the markets, then the market development, where the downstream segment would kind of be developing to a replacement of fossil fuels. We have a pan-India presence. We are in 21 states in India today, and the spread is actually with offtake by a client. So wherever we are, we have third-party client energy offtake, and that is why our spread, with clients and repeat values of clients is spreading across India, or is spread across India. We've also moved international now. We are in few African countries where we have started doing projects. And the takeaway here is the model is highly replicable. Once you have trained the farmer community, ex-serviceman community, then working in a Punjab and then going and working in Andhra Pradesh is like going and working in a separate country. So we can take it to Africa and work there. We take it to the east and northeast and work there. So the diversity in India and the model having got replicated multiple times over in India is easy for us to take it to any other country and replicate it there. And that's exactly what we are seeing, what is happening now. Now, this is the mainstay of the model, the farmer. And the farmer is who we coin and we convert into a village level entrepreneur. We empower this farmer to be able to bring that farm agri residue out of the field after the harvest cycle. So once the harvest is done and the produce, it could be rice, it could be wheat, it could be cotton, corn, lentils, chili stalks, corn cob, corn stover, etc. More than 35, 36 varieties of agriculture crops are done. Once the farmer gets a value for the produce, the balance of the plant is of no economic value to the farmer. And what does the farmer do? They burn it in the fields. Now, we keep talking about Delhi going black, and, even now that scenario is there. But just as a statistical data, per square kilometer, the number of farm fires, the highest density in India, state of Punjab. The number 2 state is Madhya Pradesh. We don't even talk about it. The number 3, number 4 states are Bihar, the high agri and economy states. We don't talk about it. Why do we talk only about Delhi going black? Because it's a media which picks it up. We have all embassies in Delhi, we have the government out of Delhi, so we talk about Delhi going black 15 days in a year. But what about the other farmers? So it's a common phenomena for the farming community for disposal of that plant which is left to burn it, either in the fields or remove it and outside their fields, thereby continuing to cause high level of PM 2.5 particulate matter pollution. And it's a major cause of health concern across India and globally as well. And that's where this farming community we engage with to create these village level entrepreneurs. There's nothing but youth over there who's willing to do something more than only, agriculture. And we empower them by, training them, providing them post-harvest farming equipment, which is typical to the type of agriculture practice they do, and creating now collection centers, warehousing, where they can do this work as a VLE along with their peers, in their villages, in their towns, bring this farm agri residue out to a warehousing which is established by a Prespl, and deliver this farm agri residue as per protocol, quality, quantity, and at that point of time, by weight, you get a slip which is now actual money. And basis that, the next day you get a SMS on your phone that there is a credit for the performance that you have done in delivering X metric tons quantity of such farm agri residue. So it's a inclusion model, it's a bhagidari model, where this farmer village level entrepreneur becomes the mainstay of the supply chain management upstream. Now, once we have this actual paid for stock in our warehouses or collection centers, this is the new oil, this is the new coal, this is the new energy, and this is the new carbon. Now, let me give you another example of carbon. We need energy. We cannot be devoid of the expansion of energy that we need for industrialization, for our uses, for being a growing economy, and thereby saying that, stop using fossil fuel, in some sense, is not going to happen. So we need to be able to cater for newer forms of energy, which are less polluting or nil in pollution, which are carbon neutral. And what is actually happening in the usage of crude coal and natural gas? The carbon which has been captured from the atmosphere over centuries and embedded in the Earth's crust is what we remove and utilize it for our energy need. And look at what is happening with this farmer integration. Where is the carbon coming from? Atmosphere, photosynthesis, our grade 5, grade 6 education. CO2 in the 4 to 6 months of the farming agriculture practice, the carbon which is sequestered and captured, and it's a definable number per acre or per hectare of land of, let's say, a rice paddy straw, how much of carbon it would sequester, or let's take how much corn would sequester or cotton would sequester. And that's the carbon which we are using now for the newer generation of biofuels energy. So we are using carbon, but in effect, it is net carbon zero or carbon neutral, because we are taking the atmospheric carbon, using that in a short duration of 4 to 6 months for the energy need, and putting that, a subset of that, back into the atmosphere. Whereas with fossil fuel, the carbon which over centuries has been captured is being taken out and put back into the atmosphere. And today, what are we saying? And today, where are we moving towards? We are saying we need to do carbon capture, storage, utilization. Capture all the carbon from the atmosphere and put it back into the Earth's crust. Where will the energy come from? That's bioenergy is alternative, is a transition alternative where we are able to do all our energy needs as it is required with the technological advancements which have come in, and not take out that carbon atom from the crust for our energy use. And that's where, as I said, this is the new oil. So, we need to invest in equipment based on the type of farm agri residue that you're going to work with. Straw varieties, stock varieties, lentils, corn cob, corn stover, each of it will require different type of post-harvest farming equipment, and that's what we invest in. And this is something which, as a density or population density of post-harvest farming equipment across India is going up, because the use case economic model for this is coming up. And hence, farmers, farmer producer organizations, FPOs, companies like ours, many more coming up, new startups, technology plays, platforms for biomass bioenergy trading, all of it is happening across India. And it's a complete, wave of this new form of energy catching up. And this is where the value creation is now starting to happen. Government is also supporting. We'll talk about it as we move ahead. And when you start going to rural areas, you would get biomass, all shapes and forms coming to us. You need to be participative to, accept it. Now you need to store it. And thereby the storage of that energy becomes a critical part. This is something which is developing and needs much more attention and focus, because ultimately whatever you see here on the photograph is actually money. It is paid for stock. And thereby we need to move into better warehousing, better storage facilities, create infrastructure in rural parts, so that, like grain is a commodity, farm agri residue also becomes a commodity with that value. And thereby new things like warehouse financing, commodity financing around agri residue waste stream is coming up and needs to further get developed. These are interim storages which we do so that we are able to deliver to our client energy 24/7, 365 days in a year. So you actually need to do a complete integrated supply chain model development, so that post-harvest what is available, let's say for 30 to 45 days, you are able to aggregate it, store it, densify it for better storage and transportation as and when required, and create a linkage with the offtake where it is going to get utilized. And that's exactly what we do as in fully integrated model. Now look at where we are moving towards. using this farm agri residue to produce second generation ethanol, to produce compressed biogas, to produce sustainable aviation fuel. And all the large oil marketing companies, corporates have now joined this bandwagon of new business economic models. So for us uniquely, we also densify this biomass. In our journey, we realized that the low density agriculture residue that we aggregate can move only about 40-50 kilometers. Beyond that, it's not economically viable to move it and use for replacement of energy. Commercial constraints are paramount. Industry would say, why would I replace to something, it's green, good, but if my cost goes up, I don't want to do it. And that's where we found a solution where densifying it into briquettes and pellets now allows us for better storage and transportation and still compete with replacement of fossil fuel. So we are across India, we use all types of local farm agri residue. We have designed equipment to be able to use that. We densify it into briquettes and then move it to client sites for energy conversion. Again, this means industrialization happening in rural India. This means reverse migration. Actually, now people don't need to move from villages for skilled jobs or technical jobs to cities, but you are actually setting up industry linked with agriculture, which is the mainstay of the Indian economy, and providing skilled technical jobs in rural parts. And around this, we have worked with the Skill Council for Green Jobs. So today there are 13 skills which are accredited, and they have certification from Government of India for the value chain or supply chain management that I have just spoken about. And hence you can skill yourself, you can get that certificate, and based on that you can get such jobs in rural parts of the country. Now all this that you see is typically, I would say, low tech. There is some technology involved, but it is still not high tech where you need to do large scale R&D around it. You have commodity as agriculture residue, you are able to compress it and densify it, you can bag it, store it, you can open store it, and this becomes a replacement value for the thermal value. So you're actually replacing coal, furnace oil, LDO, diesel in some cases, where for the thermal value it is being burned. And hence here it is the burn value of biomass that we are looking at. Now, where do we burn it and where do we use it? So these are all industrial scale boilers. So this is the sweet spot. We found this sweet spot because in a decentralized manner, every industry has their own boiler, which is the industrial boiler based on, again, fossil fuels. And they use it for industrial steam, heating, cooling purposes. And that's where we found a market where we said we can take this biomass to this industrial boiler, replace the industrial boiler with a new high efficiency 100% biomass based boiler, and supply these farm agri residue briquettes or pellets or in a loose form to such industrial boiler and generate this renewable and supply it to this industry. And that brought another element of a forward integration for us, where we started doing operation and maintenance services for such industrial boilers because it's a utility. The industry would tell us, why should I, waste time in replacing my boiler or running my boiler? My focus is pharmaceutical, FMCG, breweries, tanneries, milk products, and I need to focus there. So I should be able to buy utility, buy electricity, buy water, buy my steam, and we found merit in that. So we started providing utility services of energy for utilizing that biomass in industrial boilers. And these are few of the examples where we operate such boilers 24/7. Now look at this landscape of when we started in 2013 and where we are heading towards. And this gives you a sense of decarbonization, scope 1 decarbonization within industries, where we are replacing or continuing to grow to replace fossil fuel. And it's not only us, we are one of them. Yes, we were one of the earliest starters, but large corporates like Thermax, Berkeley Energy, so many of them are today in this segment. And it's a healthy competitive market which has grown for industrial steam as a product. Now, a word here, we report our SDGs in terms of the carbon abatement, and we also report in terms of gigawatt electric. But yet, we are not reporting gigawatt thermal. And this is all thermal replacement which is happening. So we are engaged with government, and government acknowledges this statement that we also need to start reporting gigawatt thermal, because that's also a significant quantum of decarbonization that India is doing and achieving. Again, mention here, there is no government subsidy, there is no government, I would say, benefits for doing such a project. It is commercially viable to replace fossil fuel. So if it is good, it is cleaner, it is commercially viable, then why not, promulgate it and do more of it? And that's what is exactly happening now. Okay, so these are, some photographs of the boilers, and these are large boilers. These are not small boilers by size. The van standing there will give you a kind of semblance of what scale and size these boilers are.